drill is focused more on orientation again. It played a large part in the beginning during warm-ups before we put more focus on kinesthetic awareness. But now we're getting back to another orientation part. I mentioned in the beginning that girls often have a problem with adaptation. That's why we at FC Bayern have made it our mission to work diligently on improving our girls' ability to adapt. The drill we're about to show you is exactly about this, and is designed primarily to help players who bring the ball up the pitch. After they've received the ball from the back line, central midfielders often have to turn around and simultaneously have to adjust in order to be able to play the deciding pass deep down the pitch. The drill setup should look like this. One girl representing a central defender brings the ball into play, and we have a midfielder positioned about 10 yards away. Next to the midfielder, we position two coned rectangles on each side. The cone should be in different colors, maybe red and yellow on the right, and blue and white on the left, for example. About 20 yards behind the midfielder, we have positioned another 3 players, as well as 3 mini-goals, which are about 10 to 20 yards apart from one another. The drill begins with the central defender calling out a color of one of the cones when she passes the ball to the midfielder. The midfielder has to make sure to rotate towards the correct side while she controls the ball. It can either be the side of the cone, or it can also be the opposite side as well. It's up to you. Of course, you can switch sides during the drill to train the cognitive skills of the girls as well. Again, when the defender yells "orange," the midfielder has to rotate with the ball towards the orange cone before trying to locate either an open teammate or one of the goals. In the first variation of the drill, 3 of the 4 girls positioned near the mini-goals are wearing training jerseys in different colors. So when the defender yells "orange," for example, the midfielder has to rotate towards the orange cone and immediately try to locate the player in the orange jersey in order to be able to pass her the ball on the second touch. If you don't have enough different colored training jerseys available, you could simply allocate colors to each of the girls beforehand. This raises the level of difficulty even further because the midfielder then has to remember which girl represented what color. The players in the back aren't tied to any positions and are allowed to run all over the pitch. Once again, the midfielder has to rotate towards the correct cone, locate the right teammate and pass it to her accurately so that she can score with a second touch on one of the mini-goals. It's possible to generate many different variations from this drill's basic form. We stay in the same setup, but we're going to slightly modify one of our controlling tools now. Remember, we have complexity, precision, time limits and defensive pressure. In this variation, we're now going to change the level of complexity. In the previous drill variation, the defender called out a color so that the player had to rotate towards the correct cone and locate the player in the respective jersey. In this variation, the girl now has to rotate towards the opposite side of the color. The players in the backfield should now open a gap to create a passing lane for the girl to play through. They should deliberately move to one side of the pitch in order to create a passing angle towards one of the mini-goals. The player rotating towards the other side has to recognize the gap as well as the goal the backfield players have targeted. This is a very game-oriented drill because during matches, a midfielder often has to turn around and find an open lane to pass the ball through. The player has to anticipate which one of his teammates could shoot the gap instead of passing the ball directly. Therefore, this is the perfect drill to practice these situations where you have to turn around, recognize the gap and pass the ball to your teammates so that they can get in goal-scoring positions. The level of difficulty is raised even further in the next variation we're going to show you now. The central defender again calls out a certain color before passing the ball to his midfielder. Now we're going to add 2 opposing defenders flanking the midfielder and standing next to the cones. When the first girl calls out blue, for example, the defender standing next to the blue cone now attacks the midfielder and tries to put her under pressure. The midfielder has to be aware of the one defender attacking her, depending on the cone she was standing next to, so that she can rotate towards the open side. Here it even gets more difficult for the midfielder. Instead of having to find a passing lane or a teammate in the same jersey, the midfielder now has to find an open teammate because we're now going to add defenders in the backfield as well. there will be 3 defenders guarding 4 offensive players, so it's still possible for the midfielder to find an open teammate. In this scenario, the midfielder has quite a difficult job because first, she has to rotate towards the open side away from the defender, and second, she also has to find the one open teammate in the backfield, which isn't guarded by one of the defenders. But we're not done yet. We can raise the level of difficulty even further. In this case, we're not going to call out a colour first. Instead, the defenders are going to attack the midfielder right away. They can avoid starting simultaneously by giving hand signals to each other. When the midfielder receives the pass, she has to use her peripheral vision to recognize where the defender is coming from. She must rotate towards the left when the defender comes from the right side, and vice versa. She no longer has the option of using the colours as orientation. She now has to be able to recognize early where the pressure is coming from and decide which way to go accordingly. She must rotate toward the open side, find the open teammate, pass her ball, and finally this girl tries to score a goal. The final variation of this drill is the most complex one, but it's also the most game-oriented, since we forgo most restrictions. After being attacked from the side again, the midfielder tries to find an open teammate, and since now the same number of defenders and attackers are in the backfield, she has to pass the ball to the one girl who was able to get open the best. This is a free-flowing variation where we combine many different skills, such as being able to find quick solutions as well as having the ability to adjust to various circumstances.
Glück, hier! Und mach es! Hier!